I'm I'm running on cosmic fuel at this point in time. It's been a long it's been a long
You look
day.
energized. You've been running around. We
Hey,
are
listen,
live. We
it's
are
a
live.
it's a it's an illusion of my creative and inspired mind. But while I'm here with y'all, I might sneak a watermelon or two
I
to
know that's right. That'll
make sure I
always
stay
make you feel
hydrated. You know what I'm
better.
saying?
And you
But
can always use this
yes.
to cut it up.
Hey! I should have cut my watermelon with that right there, huh?
Hey,
Put some soul in my watermelon.
you got to put the soul in the watermelon. Oh man. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my TV-DMV. Today is another Wednesday, and we have a very, very special show for you tonight where Amun is going to be speaking about divine inspiration and supreme information. He's going to talk about 7 books that can change our lives. And so I am really looking forward to this broadcast. There's also, hopefully, the listeners will come on so that you can give some oracles to some people that help out with their tools in their daily life. So, how
Mm-hmm.
are you? You good?
I'm
You
good.
got?
I'm up. I'm awake. I got in late last night and was up
Gee,
fairly early this morning. So like at least 3 out of the last 4 days have been late sleep, early awakening for me. Lots of traveling. I've been all over the place.
that's good though. That's
DC,
good.
Philly, Chicago, Atlanta. So I've been ripping and running, but
Whoa,
it's summertime. You know what I mean? So
it is.
there's things to do on all levels, from business
It
things
definitely
to just
is.
dealing with the healing of our people, counsel of our people. There
Mhm.
are close friends and family members who have departed from the earth. And so, I'm one of the brothers that's called forth on many levels to be present. So, we'll
Mhm.
do what we're
Mhm.
supposed to do.
Homage to the ancestors, for we are them. We are them,
Mm-hmm.
and they are us. Homage, homage, homage. Homage to the great mother. Homage to the great father.
Yes.
Ashe, Ashe.
Ashe. So before I start talking,
Mm.
while I'm finishing up a couple pieces of watermelon, Sister Osset, what are
Yeah,
some of the most powerful books that have influenced your life?
I can definitely say for sure that Message to the Black Man woke me up big time because I was in Christianity at that time, and I don't even remember who gave me the book, but I it changed everything, and that's definitely one of the books that I have in my collection.
Mm-hmm.
I really think Elijah Muhammad and other men who were walking the earth during that time period were no different than a lot of us now, meaning
Yeah.
that they never forgot who they were. They always were trying to figure out the truth and share it,
Mm-hmm.
with people and didn't care what anybody thought about it.
Right.
They faced a lot more politics, I think, back then, but definitely Elijah Muhammad's book, Message to the Black Man.
Mm-hmm. Any other ones?
Um, Asada Shakur's autobiography
Mm-hmm.
definitely helped in shaping who I am, and from the woman perspective. So that's the yin yang. Um, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of books. I have so many books on my shelf that my children are like, you haven't even read all of these. They don't even know that the books that I have followed me.
Mm.
From childhood. Like I still
Yes.
take them when I move. That's what I have the majority of are books more than anything else. So is
I,
Message to the Black Man on your list?
no,
Oh,
but it's a powerful book. Um, but I could have picked from a lot of different categories
yeah.
for this 7 books. Um, but when I picked them, I wanted to kind of pick from a range,
Hmm.
a range of things. That's why I say information and inspiration.
Hmm.
Because when we're dealing with all of our people, including people who might not even be melaninites, there's just a thing where the power of information and inspiration can get anybody to be inspired to move at a higher frequency, and therefore become an inspiration for others to be on a higher frequency, you know.
Definitely. True.
And so, you know, that's what matters to me. So yeah, it's an awesome run of books of many types of authors. So yeah, I guess I'm ready to get started. Hold on, let me sneak.
Now go ahead and get you the rest of your watermelon on.
Okay. Yeah, let me sneak a couple more melons. So what, I mean, do you have any specific books that you're working on, like that you're reading right now or completing right now?
Yep, 1 second.
Mm-hmm. Get you some watermelon. You better get you some.
Okay. All right. So
I was singing the watermelon song for our audience while you were getting your book.
The watermelon song? There's a watermelon?
I just made it up. Get you some watermelon.
Okay, that's that.
You better get you some.
You freestyling watermelon, okay? Liberty and justice for some. My mom just gave me this. I'm not so clear on what's going on. And then my brother just gave me Moors and Masonry Part 2 last week, you know, by Abdullah Bey. So, you know, this is really good too. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
But these are the two that I currently have like next to my bed that I'm trying to get through. Greetings.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Greetings.
Okay.
I'm on a live show, mommy. I'm on a live show.
Hi, mommy.
Amun said hi, mom. She said who? My guest said hello. Hi.
Yes.
She said hi.
So 7 books that'll change your life. Okay.
Yes.
Inspiration and information. So for everybody watching, here's a big important thing. We see in a world where it's almost like you can listen to the number of lecturers, workshop facilitators, and you can see a definite line around people who are like knowledge information heads and people who are really heavy on the motivation and inspiration side, right? And many of us rock with people on both sides of that. But there are definitely some folks that, you know, they know a lot of the informers. But when it comes to what's called enlightenment, there are a lot of people who don't have a great level of interaction with the enlightenment. And for that reason, there becomes some psycho-emotional issues. Issues where having all the knowledge and all of the blackety black or science or mathematics or whatever it might be, it does not translate them into people who feel good to be around.
I know what you're talking about.
It does not, you know, I used to work for a guy who was a vegan, like way back in the day where hardly nobody was, a brother with locks. He was a vegan, but he wasn't Rasta, right? And the way that he communicated with women and the way that he just communicated in a variety of situations was so toxic. It was so toxic. And I was young, you know, this is like me at like fresh out of college, 22 years old. But I could see it. I was like, ugh, like I don't want to be associated with this cat, with this ill communication. But he was so knowledgeable. Like he had so much African culture of the Adinkra symbols and and had traveled back and forth to Ghana and Ivory Coast and You know, he had all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but his dealings with people was not what I felt that gathering all this information was about. So
Right.
when I say 7 books that'll change your life, inspiration and information, I, as an Amun, I'm coming from a space where they are equally important. It's important to have knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding, overstanding. However, you can't outsmart kindness.
Mm.
You can't outsmart generosity. There are principles of how we live and how we treat each other, how we work in integrity with nature, that you can't uh beat me over the head with dates of things that happen in different
Right.
years, and a perfect quote that was made by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1968. And all of that's good. There's nothing wrong with those things, but the quality of resonance, how we vibrate, the
Mm-hmm.
highest quality of any culture is in how the people treat each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the information is very important, but the inspiration is too. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And so when I bring these 7 books, I'm bringing them from that foundation. So
Mm-hmm.
I have some pictures. Did the pictures get over to your email? Were you able to get them?
No.
Okay. That
Mm.
that well, some of these pictures you might have to pull up yourselves, but get your notebooks out. A couple of them that I have by my side, but my um volumes of books are in scattered parts of the United States of America right now. They're not all home here with me in Atlanta. But so the first book that I want to mention on this list of 7 books that'll change your life. Book number 1 is Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh.
Mm.
Now go ahead and ask me something. Go ahead and ask me anything. Just bring me an angle, sis.
Okay, who is it by, first of all?
Neil Donald Walsh.
Neil.
WAL, I think it's WALSCH.
Okay.
Neil spelled NEALE. Neil Donald Walsh.
Okay.
Now,
Go ahead.
this book, and actually, this is really a series of books. But the first book made me have to get the second one. The
Mm-hmm.
second one made me have to get the third. When I got the third, I was like, I almost felt like, dang, that's the end. Like that's it. But then he went ahead and did another one, Friendships with God, and then uh he did Friendship with God, Communion with God, Home with God, right? I think he did 7 altogether. Um, and so Conversations with God is about um a man who's approximately, I think he was 34 years old, who was going through what gets called the midlife crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And in this midlife crisis, his therapy is journaling.
Mm.
And so he begins to write uh, a report, basically, as a conversation with God. And within this report is a bunch of complaints and frustrations and um, comparative statements about things that don't make sense in life,
Mm.
and um a bunch of questions that he feel are unanswered, like he's phrasing questions to God, like, God, how come this and how come that, da, 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 da. So he takes these writings to his psychologist, he has a therapist, or he has friends, um and one of his friends, who happens to be a psychologist, says to him, after he's been doing this for years, says, Neil, do you know what you've written? And Neil is like, yeah, I mean, this is kind of how I deal with things. And the guy is like, no, man, what you're writing, this is a medicine for the soul, man. And his friend pushed him to publish.
Mm.
And so after years of this writing, he went ahead and published it. And what you find in the writing is that eventually he was channeling, and he didn't even know it.
Ooh. Mm.
He was actually writing responses to his old questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I tell you, I mean, I read these books in my 20s. but the level of practicality in the responses to these questions and statements that he was making, that he's getting, because at the book is like his writing and then the responses, and then him ranting some more and the responses from God. And I mean, it's brilliantly, it's a brilliant channeled work, but it comes from a very genuine place of being challenged by life and being frustrated. And so my brother Ezra told me about this book, interestingly enough, when I first moved to Chicago. I mean, when I first moved to Atlanta in 1998. But I didn't really start dealing with the book till around 2000, 2001. And yeah, I mean, really amazing books. Soothing book. You know, like some of the things you read, you know, like it's the kind of book that like you could go to sleep on. Like you close it after reading some of it and go to sleep on it. It really feels like the salve is on the sore and things are getting better. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah, it's that type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So Conversations with God is book number 1 of these 7 that I feel is a book that will change your life. And yeah, I mean, book 2 was great. Book 3 was great. He deals with all types of conversations. They get into what life is on the earth and what life is like in quote heaven, and what life is like amidst the heavens for extraterrestrials, because he gets into that too. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's great. It's great. It's great. I love it. Just talking about it brings a a great warmth to me, because it helped me to feel more complete in my humanity, but also more prepared as a universal being.
Wow. 34 is kind of young for a midlife crisis for a man.
Yeah. I'm sure. Maybe he was 44.
He married?
Maybe I'm misquoting. But I think it was 34. I mean, you know.
I mean, but was he married during the time that was he divorced?
I think he was married and divorced.
Okay.
The last book, Home with God, is about death and how people deal with death. And it gets into people who left this realm laughing, people who left this realm smiling. And it talks about how there are spiritual systems and what we would call tribes of people on this planet. And the goal in life, one of the things you're preparing for, is keeping yourself in such a state where when it is your last day, your last moment here, you set yourself up to leave with a smile on your face. You know? Now, if that's not enlightenment, I don't know what is. You know? And so all the things, I mean, think about all the conversations we hear amongst our brothers and sisters. You know, all the challenges, the struggles, the woke and the, you know, the militant and the revolutionary and all of these conversations that I had. Who's talking about being in a state of spirit and a state of mind where when you roll up out of this joint, you roll out with a smile on your face. You know, so this is important stuff. This is important stuff, right? So book number 1, Conversation with God by Neil Donald Walsh. Go get that, John. And Neil Donald Walsh, I've seen a couple of his interviews, and he's a pretty laid back cat. I like him. You know what I mean? Pretty cool cat.
Does he consider himself religious or spiritual or both?
I think Mr. Walsh is a spiritual person, but I don't think he's religious, because this book is not a churchy book. This book is anybody who feels like they're cultivating their relationship with the Supreme One. anybody can pick these books up and get something good out of it. But I will say that the people who will probably get it the best are the ones who are not bound with judgment. Because sometimes judgment leads to preference, and preference leads to psychological blockages. We become less capable of understanding others because we think we know so much already. You know what I mean? Yeah, but powerful series of books. Conversation with God, books number 1. Book number 2. Book number
Singing
2.
tonight. No, that's right.
Book number 2. Book number 2. Nothing in the actually time out. This book is not book number 2. This book is really on this list. This book is really book number 8. This is the book I had to squeeze in. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, Conversation with God is book 0. We dealing with the comedic science system. When I say 7, you still got to count 0. You got to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? So Conversation with God is book number 0. Book number 1 is Nothing in this book is true, but it's exactly the way things are by Bob Frizzle. Ooh-wee. If you want to get into some stuff about the mind, the state of the world, angelic beings, extraterrestrials, and sacred geometry, and things that happened that you heard a little bit about, and things that happened that you ain't hear nothing about, but will explain some of the things about the way things are. Nothing in this book is true, but it's exactly the way things are by Neil Donald Walsh. Let me go ahead and crack it open randomly.
His name's Bob
Frizzle. Frizzle. Frissell.
Oh, okay.
Bob Frizzle. Like Bob was like slightly frozen, so he's never mind. Don't pay me no mind. I'm wild tonight. Frizzle, frozen. Never mind. It was drizzling. It was freezing rain, and it frizzled. Never mind. Anyway, so yes, I'm just having fun. So like I'm just gonna randomly open up this book to just a page just to give a little bit of goodies, right? So here we go. This is just something on page 66, right? It says, the biggest blocks at Giza Pyramid weigh 200 tons. The biggest blocks at Tiahuanaco weigh 400 tons. 400-ton blocks of stone were used to create enormous constructions of 12,000 feet above sea level in an area that's almost impossible to grow food. The altitude is so high that the crops come out of the ground stunted. And yet, we're asked to believe that this was done by massive labor force hauling these blocks along ropes. Sure, believe that, right? So we're looking at evidence of a technology that we don't understand, like the Giza pyramids, incorporate extremely precise astrological alignments. Flash, this just in. We know how they did it. The Egyptians, that is. They wet the sand first. So remember, next time you move 200-ton blocks around the desert, just wet the sand. It's a piece of cake. Of course, that doesn't explain how they raised them up 450 feet in the air. Oh, well, at least we know how to wet sand. He's being very silly when he says that, because that's one of the things they tried to say, that they dragged these giant stone blocks across wet sand. And then he says, what about the Nazca lines in Peru, covering more than 200 square miles, a bewildering pattern of giant artworks litter the Nazca Plateau, in addition to figures of birds, spiders, animals, straight lines that stretch out in all directions, believed to have been laid down here more than 2,000 years ago. And what was their purpose when they were only observable from air? Right? So it gets into that. Like I could read, but they get into the beings that established this. Ooh. This is my lady's copy of the book. So one of the things she underlined was the ascended master saw huge problems so serious that if nothing was done to correct it, we as a species would not have survived. So they addressed the problem with another divine intervention. They decided to have an actual Christ consciousness being walk the surface of the earth to put the real thing back into the Akashic records. This is talking about who the ancient Comedics call Akhenaten. So it gets into Akhenaten's influence on ancient Egypt and how his influence actually affected the pivot of consciousness on the entire planet Earth. This is just some of the stuff in one chapter. It's a really good book. Another thing that this book gets into is it gets into the Syrians, the beings from the Sirius star system, and how they, the ascended masters of that space, acted as basically the stabilizers of this planet and the caretakers of us in this solar system. And it gets into unique things that they did during certain cycles to pretty much give us the opportunity to have a home sweet home here.
Interesting.
You know, and what it really does is it puts some detail to the guardian angel conversation.
Oh.
Because we running around here talking about some guardian angels, but do you have it? Like, do you have any stories about stuff that they guarded? What did they actually guard? It's not saying you shouldn't be a quote believer. Go ahead and have faith. But faith is the evidence of things not seen and the substance of things hoped for. So if you seek and you investigate, you'll find evidence and you'll find substance.
Yeah, I think people have different names for different entities, and even if I call whatever's on my right a guardian angel, and then this a guardian angel, I know when energies come around, I'm always asking like who is it. Sometimes I know immediately, and then sometimes I will just ask. There's a comment in the chat. I'm interested in an oracle session, so whenever you're ready. But yeah, so the guardian angel, to me, I tease people sometimes and say, you know, you have your own entities that are around you, biting fingers. Like, this person is so boring. Why am I assigned to this person? Like, stop coming to other people asking for things. You have your own army that's in with you and they're around you. So I think those words like guardian angel, and all these different things, and even the angels in the Bible, Gabriel, Michael, you know, the L means God. So even in some of these versions of the Bible, whether it was coded or not, certain people know that these spiritual beings were always here. They always will be.
Yes.
It's nothing new. Like, we're the babies of all of this. Us as humans.
Sure. And you know, when we refer to angels, we're just generalizing electromagnetic beings that vibrate at a different frequency that are assigned to us.
Yes.
That assignment, it doesn't rob us of other ways of acknowledgement. So you can acknowledge Orisha, you know, you can acknowledge Elohim, right? You can acknowledge Loa, you can acknowledge Fulta, you can acknowledge Obosum, right? You can acknowledge the ancient names, the Kachina, right? The Allahua. You know, you can acknowledge the ancient names for these types of beings under the banner of angel. You know what I mean? But yeah, really good book. I really feel like those of y'all who are ready to you know, just take a journey into understanding and overstanding some things that you may not have, some rocks you may not have turned over. Nothing in this book is true, but it's exactly the way things are. I feel that this is a pivotal book. It's a pivotal book. I'm gonna name one more, then we're gonna get into this. We're gonna get into this oracle session, because we are doing that on these live sessions on YouTube as well. Book number 3. Let me think. I don't. The list is actually on my phone, so let me see if I can see. Ooh! Book number 3. Behold the Pale Horse.
Oh yeah.
Now, interestingly enough, Behold the Pale Horse and Nothing in This Book Is True are like they're like, I think that the two books are like cousins. I think Behold the Pale Horse is the down to earth, hardcore, factual one. And Nothing in This Book Is True is the down to earth archaeologist that took shrooms and had a conversation with Melchizedek. You know what I'm saying? Like they're both truth, but
Mm-hmm.
they bring truth from different foundations. So Behold the Pale Horse is a book written by a guy named William Cooper, who I believe William Cooper was a part of one of the branches of the military.
Mm-hmm.
And he decided that after years of being free, he wanted to go ahead and tell a little bit about what he learned from some of his homies that had top secret clearance,
Mm-hmm.
um, and some of the documents that he was able to see. And he even put some of the documents in the book, even though they're all blacked out. Um, but he basically, Behold the Pale Horse, really gets into how many things in the book of Revelations have come true, and how many plans, what they call conspiracies, which they found a way to repel people from the word conspiracy. I mean, they do such a great job in making people stay ignorant. The word conspiracy only means to plan ahead of time. We conspired to have a Oracle sessions here on StreamYard and give it to YouTube, right? We just conspired, right? It's like conspiring to go to work tomorrow or conspiring to go to Jamaica in 2 weeks, right? That's all conspiracy is, right? It's something that you plan in advance. So he gets into the foundation of some of the plans that were made in advance that involve everything from remote viewing to microchipping people to the whole thing about the Roswell crash and the pulling of extraterrestrial bodies and doing experiments and reverse engineering their crafts and the creation of diseases and things that were done internationally in other countries by different governments. I mean, Behold the Pale Horse, it's a book that we were reading in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still a classic because each person that is growing up in this world, there is some review that is necessary for you to develop your I am power to deal with who you are and gain some level of psychological, vibrational, spiritual advantage over all the stuff that's been imposed on you.
Mm-hmm.
The way you conquer vibrationally, you conquer ignorance with information. And when you have the information and you have your oh snap moments, like, oh snap. That's those every time you have one of those awakening moments, it bumps you up a level where it's like you got a little bit more higher ground to see what's really going on out here.
Mm-hmm.
And by your nature, when you have that little bit more higher ground, you do certain things more effortlessly. And other things you do with much more sharpness because you know what you know for real. And so Behold the Pale Horse is a big deal. What's that dude's name? That they just charged like millions of dollars for supposedly selling misinformation online. Alex Jones.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
So he's a big Behold the Pale Horse William Cooper dude.
Mm-hmm.
But he's gone super far down the wormhole of stuff dealing with like the government and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, he in his world, in his mind, he's a guardian angel. In his world, that's who Alex is. He's like, look, I'm here to make sure that people get the information that they don't get because they're being jacked.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just going to sit by and let people get jacked. I'm going to make sure they get this information.
Right.
So Behold the Pale Horse is a book on those lines. And I feel like the reason why it changed people's lives so much is because it helps people to not be so quick to accept things coming from television.
Mm-hmm.
But even more so, it helps us to be clear on who certain propaganda is really coming from. Because you begin to be able to identify some of the sources that have been playing the game with the people's lives since the 1800s, 1700s.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So Behold the Pale Horse is a big one.
When did he transition?
William Cooper? I'm
Yes.
not sure. I'm not sure which year William Cooper
Was he
transitioned.
older? Do you know if he transitioned as an older man or was he fairly young still?
I perceived that he was an older man when he transitioned. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So we got 4 more to go, but we're gonna continue to flow. Let's get to these oracle sessions.
Um, okay. Nature Spirit Academy is the name. Do
Mm-hmm.
you need anything else? Do you need to know if it's a man or a woman?
So in an oracle session, usually at least I know a person's birthday. I mean, I'm used to talking to people in oracle sessions. Um, but you know what? Hold up. I'll be right back. I got something for that.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Please like, comment, and share this video, please. It will be greatly appreciated. And if you want an Oracle session, subscribe to the channel. And every Wednesday, we'll try to do at least 2.
What you say?
I was telling the audience to share the video and to subscribe. And I was letting them know that each Wednesday, we'll try to do at least 2 Oracle sessions on Wednesday. So I was asking Nature Spirit Academy what his or her date of birth is. But
Yes. And a name. A first name will do. Mm-hmm.
he or she hasn't responded yet.
It's all good. Definitely want to give counsel to somebody who's present.
Good.
It's tricky to give counsel to somebody who ain't even there.
So William Cooper, did he have if he had a family?
Listen,
I want to read. I've heard about the book. I've never read it from beginning to end. I just heard a lot about it.
Yeah, well, Behold the Pale Horse. Yeah. Did more people read it and get that information? I think that we call moments.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's loaded with. You'll get some of those moments going on, because it just clarifies things about the past. Yeah, and it when you understand the past, you get some understanding the now and the future. You know what I mean?
Well, while we're waiting on
yes, sir.
I'll be your first Oracle session.
Let's go.
Person.
Let's go.
You have my name.
Mm-hmm.
You need my date of birth.
Sure do.
May 24.
Mm-hmm.
You need the year?
Oh, yeah.
1967.
All right. Hold up. Let me get my pen and paper out real quick. Do a little something. Hold on. So.
Mm-hmm.
5/24, 1967. 6, 5, 10, 16 plus 7 is 23, 5, 16. Okay. So you are a 7. Your life path or destiny number is a 7. 5/24. I think that puts you in the put you in the Gemini world, right?
Definitely.
Right. You slid out of that Taurus energy into that Gemini energy.
Right at the crest.
And yes, 67, three years before the opening of the 7th seal. So yeah, y'all got it. Y'all got the same juice. A lot of powerful music came out in 67. The music started to get the quirkiness and the cosmicness of the music started to get funky right around your birthday. So you are a child of the cosmic funk.
Oh my.
You know what I mean? Sun Ra, Parliament Funkadelic, and all of them was you probably came out the room like, like if you hear any noise, it's just me and the boy.
Probably. My family very much into music.
Yes. So do you have any specific question, or do you just want me to just go in? Because like
yeah, just go in.
So I mean, for one, like so for Gemini and air signs, and a 7 at this point in your life, let me think, that would make 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So you're in your 6th cycle right now. So a big part of what you're doing right now is you're a 7 working towards your 7 cycle. So a lot of things that you didn't do before, you are really, really, really about making sure you do it now. And the thing about Gemini as an air sign, and everybody talks about the two-mindedness of a Gemini, but when you get to your 6, like 6 is equality. So when you get to your 6th cycle, the two don't fight as much anymore. The two find a way to start working together. So you are at a time in your life where you are finally starting to match the pieces, that they don't bump the same way that they used to bump. There are aspects to you that used to be like boom, boom, but now you're starting to see how they're going do. And so the work that you're dealing with right now is a big integration. Integration is a big deal for you right now, right? The stone that represents this phase of consciousness is turquoise. So turquoise and you got a great, great, great thing to do, or already going on if you already got turquoise around you. But turquoise is the stone for holistic integration. So most people, like, we're living in an age of enlightenment where a lot of this conversation is coming because we've seen many masters go past and we have the opportunity to pay attention to them. But in a world like ours, a person would naturally come to the degree of holistic integration when they're in their 6th cycle. Other things like 4, like I'm in my 4th cycle, about to go into my 5 cycle, right? In my 4 cycle, it's all about stability. It's all about stability and instability. You know, the 3 cycle is about self-expression. The 2 cycle is about doing it the way I want to do it and liberating my mind, right? The 1 cycle is all about I can do it and I don't got to explain it to nobody. And then before human being turns 10 years old, everything is about discovery and seeing if you can. Right? When you're 0 to 10, all the kids are wondering, can I? What can I? What's possible? You know, between 1 and 20, between 11 and 20, it turns into a whole thing about, yeah, I can do it, and I'm gonna a big experimentation with my body. You know, but yeah, that 6th cycle, holistic integration. So elders of ancient times and even the present time, the ones who discovered conversations with the birds, conversations with animals, conversations with luminaries, conversations with the stars, that all happens naturally. It can happen before that, but it happens most naturally on a full cycle consciousness in the 6th cycle. But as a 7 life path, and 24 makes you a 6 personality, right? 5 character, right? So your 5 character represents breaking out of the box. You are one who is, you have spontaneity in you. But you are one that helps others to break out of the box. Even doing my TV, this is a part of you helping people break out of boxes. And then once again, going to that six is equality. Six represents the infinity that's right here. Nine represents the cosmic completion, but six represents the completion here on earth. The circle of the earth reaching towards the heavens, whereas nine is the circle of the heavens reaching towards the earth.
Okay.
So a big important thing for you is about the time you spend paying attention to other than people.
To other people?
To other than people.
Other than people. Oh, yes. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Time you spend paying attention to the trees. Time you spend paying attention to the birds. Mm-hmm. Time you spend paying attention to the clouds. Time you spend paying attention to the stars. When you are dealing with people, it's really, really good. It's time to spend with the ancestors. Conversations with departed uncles, aunts, parents, grandparents, and friends even. But specifically those who are older than you. Mm-hmm. And then conversations with the children. Those whose minds aren't bound by any social stuff. Between that is a bunch of people who are all society tainted.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with the ancestors, you're dealing with those who have transcended it. And when you're dealing with the babies, you're dealing with ones that they're not really concerned. Yeah. And so these are freedom degrees leading you into your 7th cycle.
Okay.
And since your destiny number is 7, I have a feeling that your 7th cycle is going to be you might mess around and have more fun than you've had your whole entire earth path in your 7th cycle. You'll probably laugh more, maybe even dance and play and travel more in your 7th cycle than any other cycle of your entire life.
Interesting. Well, thank you.
7 being your life path, and you're moving into your 7th cycle. So there's some harmony there. Now, I'm gonna do a little bit of a reading for you too. And actually, let me see. I'll do this. Okay. So, did a reading out of the Zen Tarot for you. Yes. And, there's a lot of cards in here. But the one that came up is the Knight of Clouds. Mm-hmm. And with the Knight of Clouds, the Knight of Clouds is a cautionary card. Mm. And the caution is, be careful of what you allow into your mind. Be careful of what you allow into your mind. And be careful to not be consumed with second guessing yourself. So I could get deeper into it, but those are really, really personal readings. Mm-hmm. But long story made short, just be careful what you let into your mind, because if you let too much stuff into your mind, it will have your Thanksgiving dinner plate will still have pieces of the wrappers from the food will be all cooked into the food. A piece of like aluminum will be in your cranberry sauce.
No.
You know what I'm saying? There'll be like a fly in your mashed potatoes. You know what I'm saying? Your plate will be broken on the edge. You'll be about to say grace and like Lil Wayne will start playing. When we are not careful what goes into the mind, the voices, all the stimuli will run through the head and interfere with clarity. and that interference with the clarity will affect our performance, and it'll disturb how we approach making our dreams come true, slash how we yield to allow our dreams to come true. So yeah, that's the mind card, and yeah, you know, be careful of what you let in. You know what I'm saying? You know, put up a better screen door.
That's,
you know, yeah, yeah.
all right. Well, thank you. I mean,
Yeah,
that's many.
you're so welcome. And I mean, don't be wrong. Like on a one-on-one, I mean, on Oracle sessions, people usually you could just do them simply like this. I don't have my Mayan 13 moon calendar here with me, but I can do Mayan card readings too. But if I start doing those readings on top of opening up, just like what I just did with you,
Right.
the best way for those to happen is people sign up for the Oracle sessions before we come on, and they make sure that they're on with us when it's time. Because if I have a subject that I'm going to deal with during the session, I will never complete I won't complete the subject, because each Oracle session can, once a person starts responding and we're having conversation, like it can definitely melt the hours away.
Of course.
And I don't mind, because it's a service, and we are all collective in the mental plane, but we are singularities as mind. So like, what's on my mind, what's on your mind, that's the singularity effect. But collectively, we are in the mental plane. So, no embarrassment. Oftentimes when readings are done open like this, if we iron out wrinkles for one person, we ironed out wrinkles for a whole bunch of people.
Definitely.
We got more in common than we got different. That's for sure.
Definitely. Okay. Book number, see, 0, 1, 2. We're on number 2.
0. Well, technically we'd be on 3, because we did Nothing in This Book Is True. We did Conversations with God. We did let me see.
Behold the Pale Horse.
We did Behold a Pale Horse. Okay. So book number would have been 4, but we snuck with Nothing in This Book Is True in there. The Man from Planet Risk.
Say it again.
The Man from Planet Risk.
Ooh.
Risk is spelled RIZQ. The Man from Planet Risk, written by Dr. Malachi Z. York.
Ooh.
Man, listen. That book right there, for anybody who's dealing with any of this new age melanin, I am God, ancient beings, mothership stuff, The Man from Planet Risk is that book. Honestly, I think that Dr. York is like the I feel like in a lot of ways he really is like the Tahuti consciousness, that when we look at what's happening in the so-called Black community or the conscious Kemetic African community, I feel like his contribution, though he doesn't get mentioned a lot because he got caught up in some controversy, which I don't think is 100% his fault, but I do think it is some percentage his doing. But I don't think it's his fault. As far as his works, though, outside of the controversy, his works are phenomenal. And for the books that he wrote, specifically when we're talking about right now, The Man from Planet Risk, this is a book that basically makes the conversation of the ancient Sumerian tablets personal to who we are in the here now. Okay. And I think that's a big deal, because there are stories in ancient history that we hear about the beginnings of life on the earth and things written by the ancient Sumerians And when we look at it from like a historical basis, the way that we learned in Western schools, it's looked at as just some stuff that happened over there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, oh yeah, there's some stone tablets over there. Oh yeah, those people believe that. And we have been taught to look at it from the perspective that they are just some people over there with some belief system.
Mm-hmm.
So no one ever tells us what them things actually said and when those things was written and how life germinated from different parts of the planet Earth to end up all over the planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so without having that story,
Mm-hmm.
we feel disconnected. But the way that he wrote the book was 100% about our connection.
Mm-hmm.
And how those stories connect to certain aspects of the Bible, leading all into the great ship called Murdoch or Nibiru of the Sumerian doctrine is the New Jerusalem that they're speaking about in Revelations. They're one and the same. And so for me, growing up with a Christian foundation, but always interested in the mysteries of life, a book where the author is communicating from an I am state about ancient writings and how important it is for us to understand what happened here thousands and thousands of years ago, and how things have gone around, come around, going around, come around, going around, come around. They're going around. And now the time is where they're coming around for the fourth time. And in this cycle, everything is prime for us to experience a certain level of cosmic genesis. But along with that, we are also seeing things collapse and things are getting real crazy because the same beings that were doing war with the Anunnaki in those ancient cycles are the same beings that have been pressuring the planet Earth into the position that we see now with the artificial intelligence, the technology, the drugs, right? So he gets deep into the science of melanin. He gets into the Sumerian and Egyptian doctrine. He gets into the science of levitation. He gets into the some of the names of the 24 elders of the Bible and what they were stationed to actually do, like who Gabriel was to the ancient Sumerians and who Uriel was to the ancient Sumerians. And he gets into our cosmic foundations, that our relationship with this planet is an extension of our relationship with a home planet, a place that our ancestors, our ascended bloodline lives other than here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that this planet is really a twin planet to another planet in the 19th galaxy on the other side of Pleiades. So it's a great book. It is both down to earth, scientific. The way that he wrote and his research team put together books, they put a lot of words in bold print and capital writing. So one thing I will always give an amazing level of credit, besides the fact that he has a lot of amazing channel material, is that when you read his books, if you just take notes, he drops so many dates and names and places that just reading that book alone can lead you to a whole library full of other stuff because of how many things get referenced in one material. So yeah, The Man from Planet Risk is a straight, yeah. You talk about opening your third eye with information. That book could have you like yeah. It definitely attune people who are looking to have the awakening that engages the higher self in a detailed way, you know. And then that book is actually a part of a series of Supreme Mathematics books. So that's the book that I chose to name for today's list. But that book comes as the head to a series of books: Mission Earth and the Extraterrestrial Movement, Shambhala and Agartha, Subterranean Cities Within the Earth, The Melaninite Children, Yeah, there's a whole series of Supreme Mathematic books, and all of them, like, I could have easily said Mission Earth because Man from Planet Risk blew my head off. But then Mission Earth put a new head right back on. Like that, like amazing, amazing books. But yeah. So the Man from Planet Risk is book number 3, up from 0, but 4 to all the people who start at 1. Yeah. Mind-blowing book.
Thank you for that.
And on Amazon, sometimes you can get a copy for like $40.
Okay.
Sometimes you can get a copy for like $200. It just depends on who you're getting it from.
Okay.
Because it has been reprinted a couple times, but it's also been totally out of stock a number of times too. But really, really good book.
So Dr. York started off Christian, then did he study Sunni Islam or Sunni?
So his order, his Islamic order was referred to as the Ansarullah.
Okay.
The Ansars.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
the Ansars under Al Imam Isa Al Hadi Al Mahdi. And then, you know, Rabboni, you know, he went through different schools. So he went through an Islamic school with the Ansars. Then he went to the Hebrew school as Rabboni Yeshua. Then it was the Nubian Islamic Hebrews. Then it was the Holy Tabernacle Ministries, which is when I started studying. And you know, as Malakazi York or Amanubi Ruach Patah. And then forward into the ancient Egyptian order. And so forth and so on. The United Nuwapian Nation of Moors as Chief Black Eagle, Maku. So you know, I love his character. I love his personification. I feel like any teacher that is invested in us being universal is gonna have to run the risk of people not liking you because you go through changes. But in order to do anything thoroughly, you have to give each thing some time. And then when you make your metamorphosis, make it whole. Make a whole metamorphosis. That way, people who just get on board at whatever time they get on board, get a concentrated form of who and what you are. And it's up to us to do the back research. You know, like for me, there are things that I learned from the Ansar Law School that is so vividly important to me that when I talk to people who are at the current level of his university and teachings, they'll say things like, "That's old knowledge. That's old information." But for me, it's like, yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's just that I'm timeless. So my relationship with the information is eternal. You know what I mean? Because I'm still using it and it's still working and it's still giving me the opportunity to upgrade myself and do righteousness everywhere I go. You feel me? But yeah, powerful teacher. I mean, it'd be easy to just do a whole session just on his teachings because he's that kind of transformative teacher. But the book out of the 7 from him that I'm mentioning is The Man from Planet Risk. Go get that book. It's a goodie.
Thank you.
Yes. So next book we got here. Ooh, so I have only called 2 people on this planet my spiritual teacher. Right? And one of those is Amadou Bidou Akpata. And the other is who they call Bhagwan Rajneesh, aka Osho. And this next book is by him, and it's called An Autobiography of a Spiritually Incorrect Mystic.
Repeat that. An autobiography.
An autobiography of a spiritually incorrect mystic.
Okay.
Listen, y'all. Listen. Go on here and read that like Man from Planet Risk scroll. And that nothing in this book is true. Because when you get to this book right here, Osho is that some have referred to him as the most enlightened man in the world during his times. But Master Bhagwan Rajneesh is crazy. He's crazy. But he's crazy enlightened. And so when we hear the stories about like the Eastern mystic masters that are like super enlightened, but they're like even the shamans, right? Like the story about some of the shamans is like the shamans do stuff. People be like, what the heck? Why would he do that? Like he's crazy. Is he out of his mind? But these people be like super duper, like their enlightenment be like, it'd be like it'd be so transcendental that it's like non-linear consciousness. So this autobiography is an autobiography of Bhagwan Rajneesh, aka Osho. If you do not know anything about Osho, his documentary came out. His documentary is called Wild Wild Country, about when he decided to move to Michigan, and then he moved to I think he moved out west first, like Nevada somewhere, or Utah or somewhere out there, and then he moved to Michigan. But of course, all of his followers came with him, and he had a huge bunch of followers. And it talks about how beautiful the situation was, and then how chaotic it got. But that's just the story about the lifestyle of really the people who was following him more than him, because he was out of the conversation a lot. The people who was running things for him was kind of out there too. But this book about him as a spiritual master, and how he grew up as a child to end up being the kind of master that he became. This book is lovely. I mean, it is a good book. Some of my favorite parts of the book are like stories about like when he was a child, he grew up in India, and the town he lived in, all of these gurus and swamis and different types of master yogis and all of these people would come through the town and speak in front of the whole village. And a bunch of people from the village would come in chairs and watch them, listen to them, and be honoring these masters, master such and such, and giving them gifts and making sure that they only walked on rose petals and all this stuff. And he wasn't raised by his parents. He was raised by his grandmom, like me. He was raised by his grandparents, and his grandmom was, his anchor, like my grandma was mine. And but he would get like these speakers would do stuff, and he would say, does anybody have any questions? And he, at like the age of like 6, he would stand up on a chair and start drilling these gurus with questions. And it would get to such a point where he would become an embarrassment. But all the other adults in the village would be ticked off, like, tell that little obnoxious grandchild to shut up. But she would look back at the people like, don't say nothing to my grandson. He got a question and we want answers. Like, you know what I'm saying? So he has a bunch of stories in there about how he came to be who he is and how he is. And I need to read it again, but it's one of the most, and possibly the most silly, provocative, enlightening books I've ever read in my life. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. But it's made me laugh a lot. It made me laugh a lot because he's a serious man. He is a person who had to go with being exiled from India because of his philosophy.
Wow.
Yeah. He got exiled. He was exiled because of his philosophy. His books have been banned in countries all over the world.
What?
Yeah. His books have been banned in countries all over the world. And interestingly enough, the book that put me onto him is called The Beloved Part 2. The Beloved Part 2. The Beloved Part 1 was out of print and banned. And I got lucky that my Once Upon a Love, Janae, we're in a bookstore one day, and she stumbles upon the book and says, oh, don't you have this book? And I'm like, not paying attention, talking about, so what book you talking about? She's like, this one right here. And she pulls it out. And do you know, in her hand, she's holding The Beloved Part 1. She's holding the banned book that I was looking for 4 years.
My.
in her hand. So you know I bought it. Yeah.
My.
So I've had some super harmonic experiences in this life, but that was definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm.
That when she said, I mean, when I tell you this bookstore had a illion books to pick from,
Mm-hmm.
of all the books she walked up to that one. Mind blown.
Probably in Philly.
It was definitely Philly. Yeah, definitely
Yes.
Philly.
They have all the books that you can ever want.
Yeah, there's a lot of books in Philly. But yeah, so an autobiography of a spiritually incorrect mystic by Osho. Wonderful, wonderful book. Yeah, you can do some back research on Osho. Some of y'all already know who Osho is, but if you ain't read that book, get that book. That book is life-changing, but it is also greatly entertaining.
Okay.
Yep. So, next book on our list. Sheesh. Now, this one is for everybody. But I had to give this book honorable mention because it is a life changer. And a lot of y'all already read it or have it or need to have it. And that book is called Heal Thyself by Queen Afua. Heal Thyself by Queen Afua is a life-changing book. Life-changing. So many sisters can testify about that book and the following book, Sacred Woman.
Mm-hmm. I have that.
But Heal Thyself is a powerful book. It helps us understand so much about how the mind and the spirit, along with the food that we eat, heal the womb. And when the mind is out of order, the womb is out of order. And there's a practice. She just gets into the levels of self-care that are beneath the surface. And so, even though a great part of our cultural community has already been delivered by Queen Afua's book and her presence and her service and some of her constituents, people who were dropping jewels and writing books the same time as her books came out, we're already 15, 20 plus years after her influence. But this book, Heal Thyself, is part of the reason why the conscious so-called cultural community is as big and as active as it is right now. So Heal Thyself is such an important book. I would say if you've never read it, it's important. If you have read it, it's important to get another copy. Pass it on to your nieces, your nephews. Make sure the young people in your family get a copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's nothing wrong with being a parent and giving your children assignments. And saying, hey, I would really like you to just go ahead and fall back off of the video games. Make sure you finish reading this book. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have some conversations about this. You know what I'm saying? Go on ahead and knock out 10 pages, 10 pages of reading, every night, and in 2 weeks, we're going to review this book and we're going to talk about this book because it's important that you understand what's being discussed here about the mind, the body, the spirit, and taking care of yourself because it's an upgrade, and that upgrade is very important. So Heal Thyself is a life-changing book. Do you have a copy of Heal Thyself?
No, I have the Sacred Woman.
Okay, so Heal Thyself is the book that came before Sacred Woman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have that one.
Yeah, Heal Thyself by Queen Afua. Amazing book. Legendary book. And our next book, what is it? Nutricide by Dr. Lalia Africa. Another one. Nutricide by Dr. Lalia Africa. Rest in peace. Resonate in peace, master. I was blessed to meet him a few times when I would be at 125th Street. Good brother. Always would come and look at my jewelry when he came through. Uptown Juice Bar, the old one. They used to be on 125th before you get to Fifth Ave. Yeah. Nutricide. Amazing book to have an understanding of how people are being casually poisoned by what they eat.
Mm.
And how many of the issues that we see falling upon our people as early as their 30s, unfortunately, but usually by their 50s, how many of that comes from food? Whereas the doctors that people believe so much in never really tell people where the ailment's coming from. They just tell you you got it.
Right.
But the Nutricide explains to you exactly what you're attacking yourself with in the name of satisfying your quenches. It's an amazing book. It's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's a powerful book. Because ultimately, what is it really saying? It's saying nutritional genocide or nutritional suicide, right? And so, a big part of dis-ease is that you're doing things to stress out your body. You're making your body work too hard. The body begins to panic because
Mm-hmm.
it's not eliminating things, and all types of uh, toxic mutations start to occur subtly from the inside out. And it begins subtly, and then things happen suddenly.
Mm.
You see? And so Nutricide I had to put on this list because when we talk about books that have changed your life, checking what you put inside your system definitely changes your life. Or indulging in the wrong things consistently changes your life too. It's not in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So Nutricide by Dr. Lalia Africa. I hope this book list is doing right by y'all. Get these books. Don't just look for the online PDFs. Don't do that. Get the
Mm-hmm.
book. Get the book. It's important. Maybe if not for you, maybe for somebody else that might pick it up. People, it's not as easy to follow what you typed in online. People can see the book on your rack though.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think we're up to. Are we up to the last? I think this is the last book.
That was number 7, 0 through 7, but actually 8 if you're starting with 1.
1, 2, 3. Yes. Okay. So this would be this would be the final book of our selection here. And this book, oh, where'd I go? Okay, there I am. So this book is another one authored by the master teacher, Dr. York. And I was trying to think of other books because I got a bunch of them. But when I
Mm-hmm.
said life-changing books, because of my collection of books, I could not ignore this book. Now, I got a book that I'm gonna give honorable mention before I give up my last book. So we really got 9. And the book I'm
Okay.
gonna give honorable mention to is the Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch. This book here ain't no joke. This book is what I refer to as a synchronicity scroll. The Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch.
Mm-hmm.
This book here gets into the overstandings, understandings of the positions of the different angelic beings that watch over our body, our spirit, and the planet Earth over the last so many thousands of cycles.
Mm.
And it gets really, 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 really into the order of evolution for different species on the planet Earth.
Ooh.
And I
Okay.
mean, it speaks in a very initiates of the mystery school language.
Huh.
The words it uses is the white brotherhood, but don't get all racial about it because
Mm-hmm.
it's not talking about white people. Though I think the reason why it uses those words is to camouflage the real message.
Mm.
I think the reason why it continues to say white brotherhood is so it could skip, so it could slide past the gatekeepers into our hands.
Mm-hmm.
This
Interesting.
book is a metaphysical scroll. And personally, I'll tell you now, reading this John out loud
Mm-hmm.
or reading it to yourself. But reading this joint out loud, you will, if it works for you like it works for me, you will experience major synchronicities in your day. Yeah, like you talking about like heaven on earth type of experiences. Yeah, it's a really good one for that.
Wow, thank you. Boy,
the writer of that book's name is Doriel.
And
Doriel. And it's no coincidence that in this book, which is book number 7, the Holy Tablets, the Holy Tablets even mentions Doriel. Doriel is mentioned in the Holy Tablets. And trust me, the Holy Tablets don't reference too many people that is like authors unless they did something worth being mentioned for. Yeah. But yeah, Doriel is mentioned. They even got Doriel's picture in here, I think. And he don't really get too deep into Doriel. I think he discusses the organization that Doriel comes from.
Okay.
And a little bit of background about Doriel. But yeah, getting honorable mention in the Holy Tablets ain't no joke. But the Holy Tablets is over 1,500 pages of information compiled from the ancient Sumerian tablets, the ancient Babylonian tablets, the degrees of the Nation of Islam, the Apocrypha, the Urantia, and a whole bunch of channeled information that came directly through Amanubi Ruakpata as Yanun, who is a conduit for the Archangel Michael.
Oh man, I'm gonna definitely be online tonight.
So once again, over 1,500 pages. Because there are 19 chapters to this, and everyone is not on the same level of reading. I've read the first printing of the Holy Tablets. I read the entire tablets beginning to end. This printing of it, I have not. I had the audacity to think that it was the same, even though the master teacher told me that it was revised. Well, I've read certain chapters, and when I read them, I was like, hold up, that wasn't like that last time I read it. But like the never-ending story, there are certain things that you'll read in the past that change in the future, like the Mandela effect. I truly accept and perceive that these things are happening with books like this. That not only is it updated physically, but I think it's updated vibrationally.
Ooh.
Yeah. But there are chapters. I mean, so many chapters. The first chapter is the chapter of the creation, which gets into like the beginnings, like the Big Bang and the beginning of life on the planet Earth. Second chapter is the chapter of the slaves, talking about the beginning of the once the Anunnaki began to start creating their servants on the planet Earth, and what Enki and Enlil and the great mother scientists Ninti and Ninki did to make basically what was on this planet, the Homo erectus Cro-Magnon man, all of a sudden function with the level of sentient consciousness that we function with now. Because what Darwinism attempts to communicate as evolution, they're already clear that based on that theory of evolution coming from a monkey, that all of a sudden we jumped 10,000 years in consciousness. Now, I don't necessarily believe that we came from monkeys, but we obviously have something in common as mammals, physically speaking. But there's definitely some genetic differences, and this doesn't really talk about evolution as a Darwinist thing. It doesn't get into that. That's not what it's about. It's about our relationship with beings that really came from the heaven, and how they mixed their blood with earthling blood to create a new being.
Right, because Genesis 6:10 talks about the Anunnaki coming down and impregnating human women. So it's definitely there.
Yes.
It specifies the human woman.
Yes. They talk about the Nephilim. Right. But yeah, he gets into them too the because the Nephilim aren't necessarily addressing all of the Anunnaki.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of them don't fit that category because all of them weren't fallen. Some of them were sent, and some of them got kicked out and ended up here.
Oh, you said all were not fallen
Right.
angels.
Some of them were fallen because they got kicked out of where they were. Some of them came here on a mission because they had something they were supposed to do here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like, I don't know, like kids in your neighborhood. You're like, oh, where are you from? They're like, oh, I'm from Virginia. What you? Oh, my mama sent me up here to live with my dad.
Right.
What he really saying is, my mama kicked me out of her house because I was a knucklehead, and now I'm living with my dad because he'll keep me in check.
Right.
Right.
Interestingly put.
But so chapter 2 is the slaves. Chapter 3, he didn't even translate chapter 3. Chapter 3, El Mustawit. I guess that means the teachers. El Mustawit. Okay. Chapter 4 is the Enuma Elish. Chapter 5 is the enclosed garden. Chapter 6 is the human beast. Chapter 7 is the living soul, which is one of my favorite chapters. The living soul chapter is like just to read off some of the tablets that's inside of that chapter. So like the living soul, tablet 1, the seed of Cadman, tablet 2, the spiritual form, tablet 3, ether, tablet 4, the laws of health, tablet 5, the reproductive process, tablet 6, the forces of will, tablet 7, the mortal man, tablet 8, the ego, tablet 9, the power of thought, tablet 10, health and relaxation, tablet 11, diet, tablet 12, concentration, tablet 13, pleasure and the mind, tablet 14, the more it possesses, the more it wants, tablet 15, saving energy, tablet 16, attention, tablet 17, the unreal to the real, tablet 18, self, tablet 19, El Elo, the Most High, tablet 20, Anu is oneness, tablet 21, the creator, tablet 22, freedom, reality, and truth, tablet 23, that thou art, tablet 24, love, tablet 25, the mind, tablet 26. So it does 38 tablets to just that one chapter.
Gee. Oh my goodness. This is so interesting. I know I'm going to be buying most of these books.
So that's the living soul. That's just that's chapter 7. Chapter 8, the basically the story of Nakash, or the story of the devil, right? Tablet 9, Cain and Abel. Tablet 10, disagreeableness. Tablet 11, the secrets of Adafa, which is the mysteries of Enoch. Wonderful stories. I mean, listen, this book has got it all. It's got science in it. It's got the math in it. It's got some updatable, modern-ish stories to it, because the story of everlasting life continues into these times. But when you start to get into these tablets of Adafa, and then the next chapter, which I think is, so tablet 12 is the tablet of Anzu, but tablet 13, the generations of Abraham. Whoo! There are some stories in the generations of Abraham that, they'll be with me they will be with me for all of my days. I mean, really, really powerful. I named my firstborn son out of the generations of Abraham chapter. Tablet 14, the story of Utnapishtim, aka the story of Noah. Tablet 15, the Christians. Tablet 16, the underworld. Tablet 17, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Tablet 18, the Tablet of Etana. Tablet 19, Al-Qidr, the omnipotent one, aka in Sumer, Marduk. So yeah, an amazing, amazing, amazing book. It begins, the opening of it says, "Lo, my children, allow me to speak with you, for it is that time again. Every 25,000 years, the renewal of your way of life, Nuwapu. Let me speak to you about the beginnings of life before and after the knowledge bestowed upon you of your very own creation and the making of this planet you call Earth and many other planets that you have no knowledge of." That's the first verse of the Holy Tablets. So yeah, life changing. So yeah, that is today's Sacred 7 introduction. Any one of these books could be a whole YouTube session. You know, I'm glad that y'all come and check in with us. We're gonna get deeper into any of these things and all of these things as time progresses. But you got some books to collect. You at YouTube.
Absolutely.
Yes, my sister Najma. You know.
Thank you so much. This was really powerful. I am so pumped up right now.
Yes.
I'm so appreciative of you. My TV-DMV.
Yes.
Great evening, everyone.
Yes. And listen, once again, you know, y'all can always tune into me on Instagram at Temple of Soul. TEMPLEOFSOL. I am a alchemist. I work with stones and metal. I make amazing talismans, and quiet as kept, I'm one of the front runners in this thing. Like I saw the world of wire and stone talismans being all over the place way back in 98. I saw it way back then, and I'm one of the ones that started it off. I can feel that. When you point that to the screen, I can feel that.
Really?
Yes. Yes, I'm one of the ones that planted seeds all over the country. And what I see right now, what people making wire art all over the place, is definitely the fruit of the seedlings that I played part in spreading. So yeah, come on, check out Temple of Soul. And you know, check out the lives too. We go in on the lives, but you know where you can catch me really getting it in right here on my TV on Wednesdays.
Ashe. Love you, brother.
Peace and love to you. So what's the link for those who want to make a charitable donation and give us a blessing? Do we have a Cash App link or anything like that?
I'll have it next week.
Okay, cool. Well, you know what I'm saying? Hey, y'all, if you appreciate the stuff, if you appreciate the service, go ahead and bless us. You know what I'm saying? Food, clothing, and shelter for the righteous ones. All right? But it's all good. We're going to keep on doing it because we care. All right? One love. I'll talk to you soon, sister.
Yes, definitely.
Peace.
Peace.